strong I am again. There is a little punch out right here. You can punch that out and there's a spigot, and you can pull that spigot out and then you can just lay it on its side and dispense it. So that's one reason I love this. Rocky Mountain will deliver free to your home if you order at least 10. So I think that is very cool. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be cases of Costco water. It can be water that you filled in 2-liter bottles. There's a way how to prepare it on there that we'll get to. Water that you can pick up and put in your car. Okay, check this one out. This is one that's kind of relatively new. It's 8 gallons, but it comes on wheels. Now this one, I can still lift this one. I can get this in the car. But if you had to walk out on foot, check that out. I love that. And it has, you've probably seen how it has the spigot, and it stores like that so you don't break off the spigot. And then when you want to use it, you screw it on this side. And then you can screw this on, and then that'll snap down. This has a handle, and you can dispense it like that. So I think that that one is a neat way to do portable water. And that one you can do if you have to go, or if you have to walk out, or you have to go in your car. So portable water is essential. You need at least 5 gallons per person in your household for portable water. Okay, then, did you have a question?
Where did you get that?
Oh, you know what? We're going to put those on an order form so we can buy them in bulk and get a great deal on them. So they'll be on an order form that's forthcoming, as will this one. This one is a 5-gallon, which I really like. This is a 7-gallon, but it is a little heavy. Like, I use these, well, we're getting to it, but I use these when I want to refill, you know, from my barrels. Well, hauling this up and down the stairs got a little heavy. So I decided I really like the 5-gallon, and it's a heavier plastic than this one. But these are good for many uses, and we'll get to that in just a minute. So water storage. How much water do you need to store? So now let's do a different scenario. Now we can stay in our homes, but we've had some kind of an emergency, some kind of disaster. We're going to stay in our homes, but we won't have our services. We may not have power, water, sewer, garbage pickup. Okay? We don't know how long it'll be until those services are restored. How much water do you need to have stored in your home?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. So that's a gallon per person per day for 2 weeks, which essentially boils down to 14 gallons. That's the industry standard. However, there's a little addendum to that standard. If you live in a desert area, you should up that to 1.5 gallons. So now, if you live in places like Utah or Arizona, you should be storing 21 gallons per person, which is 1.5 gallons per person per day. So add up quickly how many people are in your household and see if you have enough water stored. Who thinks they have enough water stored? Okay, a few. Well less than half. Getting closer to half, those ones that are raising their hands a little later. Okay, I'm always surprised how many people are understored on water, which will most likely be one of our absolute most critical resources. And most people are understored. That always surprises me. So how do we store it? There are a lot of ways to store water. The most popular and the most economical way is the water barrel. This is a 55-gallon water barrel. They are mass-produced, and so you can get them very inexpensive. The best place, I think, is, well, our Walmart carries them, and Macy's will put them on sale with their case lot sale, and they'll go down to $39.99. And that is an incredible price. Industrial Container carries them. They have really awesome group deals. If we put a group together for that. But the 55-gallon, By far, it's just because they're mass produced, it is the most economical way. But they come in all shapes and sizes. You can get barrels that hold 500 gallons, and they'll have spigots on them, and they have, they have fancy things. I mean, they're out there. One place I like is plasticmart.com. You can go out there. You can check them out. But the 55-gallon is the most popular. Okay, so where do you store this? Because that's the first thing you need to think about. Because you have to decide where you're going to store it before you fill it. Because after you fill it, it's too late. By default, it is stored where you filled it. So decide where you're going to fill that. I don't ever recommend outside. Blue is kind of the universal color for water, and it's got a UV protection in it because UV rays will actually promote the growth of algae and bacteria, so you don't want to keep them outside. I know that actually sounds backwards, but it's true. So you don't want to store them outside. Store them in your garage if they won't freeze. Store them in your basement. Find where you're going to store them and decide that first. Then the industry also says, and I've talked to this barrel manufacturer many times, do not store them on the raw cement. You should lift them up. Get a pallet, get 2 2x4s, lift that barrel. And here's the reasoning. If our sewer were compromised or there were in any disaster, if anything were to seep up from the ground, or if there were sewage that backs up into the homes, plastic is porous, cement is porous, it can taint and leach your water. So lift it up, lift it up. Yes?
So I've had a barrel for a good 6 years empty, sitting outside on the pavement.
Is it a new barrel or is it a used barrel?
It was new when we got it.
Okay.
Is there something I need to do to prep it before I fill it?
Yes, and we'll talk, yes. When you go to fill this, if it's brand new, you'll want to rinse it really well, because in the manufacturing process, there's just plastic dust. Now the first time I filled my barrel, after 5 years, I was all excited to taste it and test it and see, because we'll talk about this. This will preserve your water for 5 years. So I was putting this to the test. And I filled my barrel, and at 5 years, and you always put a label on your barrel, the date you fill it and the date it needs to be refilled. And after 5 years, I tasted that water, and it tasted like that darn barrel. It tasted like plastic. So I started changing up my talks. I'd say, all right, you've got to start storing like Tang or powdered lemonade or Kool-Aid or something to make your water taste good. And the #1 vitamin deficiency when you're living off your food storage is vitamin C. So I thought, we'll kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and we'll store like Country Time or something. We'll get our vitamin C and we'll make this water taste better. But I called the manufacturer and I said, my water tastes like your barrel, and I really don't like it. And here's what he told me. He says, the first time you fill that barrel, it will draw out, there's just plastic, carbons, and dust in there, and it will draw that out. And the first time, he says, it actually will taste like the barrel. But he says the second time, it won't. It'll be much better. So if you have a new barrel, rinse it out. If you want to let it sit for 3/4, 6 weeks, maybe a couple of months, let it sit, then drain it. You'll draw that out, then fill it again, and you're set to go. Now, what do you fill it with? So now we've found a place that we're going to store our barrels. We're going to put them up on a piece of wood. What are we going to fill them with? Just tap water is all you need. Now,
Hose water, same thing.
just water.
Hose.
Oh, hose water. Now, if you use a hose, they always tell you to use an RV grade hose. You don't want to use a hose that's maybe been out in your garden or out in the mud or out on the grass. So I didn't buy, for me personally, I didn't buy an RV hose, but I bought a brand new hose that I only use for my barrels. It's not one that's been outside in the dirt. It hasn't been tainted or contaminated or anything like that, because the last thing you want to do is introduce that into your barrel that you're going to, that you're going to use for drinking water. So get a good clean hose. If you really want to be, PC, go and get an RV grade hose. But then only use it to fill your water barrels. Don't cross use it for things in the yard.